everyone. Welcome. It's Isaiah from isaiahbell.com. And this is another episode of my podcast, Isaiah's Inspiring Evenings. So tonight we are going into one of our series. As you might remember, for 2024, I have various series. And so this is the Things Women Don't Talk About series, where we talk about things that women don't talk about. So it can be mundane topics like bathrooms or cooking recipes or whatever, or it can be subjects that we don't talk about because they are too deep or too taboo or basically ignored, which is the case of tonight's subject or topic, since it only concerns 50% of the population, right? So it's basically ignored. And it's a little different episode than I would do usually because it's part one of 4 episodes. So the amazing Cindi Buenzli Gertz, who is my guest tonight, hi Cindi, is going to come 4 times because the topic that we decided to tackle, and that is one of her favorite topics, so the topic of menopause, that she calls inspired menopause, which I love, deserves more than 1 episode. So we decided to do 4 episodes. And this one is going to be about the body aspect, the beautiful body of women going through the change. So before we go too deep into the topic, I want to present a little bit of Cindi, because for those of you who don't know her yet. And the way I do this is by reading her bio. Sorry, I can't remember everything by heart. So let's go for this. As a wife, mom, teacher, and busy woman who survived 10 plus years of perimenopause, Cindi is on a mission to bring the change out of the shadows and into the light. In her women's circles, Cindi helps her midlife sisters find rest, release, and relief during perimenopause so that they can fully enjoy their wise womanhood. She teaches women how to reclaim their physical and emotional well being with restorative yoga and simple self care habits. And she shows midlife women, pregnant with the possibility of who they're becoming, how to rebirth themselves into a vibrant, second half of life. A woman's joyful journey through midlife can start in her powerful, transformative women's circle, Not Your Mother's Menopause, and her signature Inspired Menopause program. Cindi is a certified Kripalu yoga teacher of 25 years and co-author of 2 books, Awakening the Divine Feminine and Love Notes from the Soul. And of course, you will find all of Cindi's links and credentials above or below the audio or the video, depending on what you are looking at or watching. If you are following us live and you have questions, please don't hesitate to ask them in the comments. So, inspired menopause, the body part. How are we starting this?
Oh, it's a long list.
It's a long list.
Yeah. I compiled, and this has been compiled before, so I borrowed some of it. 34 different changes and challenges. And when I first started this, 7 years ago, the majority of them are physical changes. Not all of them are, not all of the changes and challenges we go through are necessarily caused by perimenopause or menopause, but they certainly overlap with this time of life, I think, and are huge considerations. So yeah, one of the questions I get is what can I expect? And that's a really hard question to answer because I think this experience, this process that each woman goes through it's like a thumbprint. It's like a snowflake. It's unique. I've been reflecting on this amazing concoction of chemicals that we are, and the things that we're exposed to and that we put into our body and how this all reacts. So, the first thing we all think of when we think of what's going to happen physically, when things start changing are the hot flashes and the night sweats. And they're not prevalent in all cultures. And I'm not sure about the UK or France where you are, Greece, but I know here in the States, there's a number out there that 75% of women going through perimenopause are going to have hot flashes and night sweats. And
Wow.
yeah, yeah, and those night sweats lead to sleep issues a lot of times. Sometimes not. Sometimes women have insomnia and migraine headaches, which can affect sleep, and some more embarrassing things, like,
Can I interrupt?
yeah,
Because I'm going to do this, of course, and just for the sake of knowledge, let's put it this way. We're talking about a phenomenon that occurs for almost 100% of women, and that means half of the human population. Last up to what, 7-10 years?
yeah,
The
sometimes
whole
more. Yeah, the whole process. For some women, that small percentage that just breeze through it and all of a sudden one day they don't have their period anymore. That's a very small percentage. Somebody might notice, it might be a few months, but for the majority of women, it's probably more around like 2 to 4 years. And then you have some of us like me that are anomalies and we're like 10 plus years. I think I'm in year 12 now. And a lot of those physical challenges and changes, and you'll notice I don't call them symptoms. I'd love to talk about that too. But the changes and challenges physically have passed for me. I'm still dealing with hot flashes and night sweats, and they go in cycles. But yeah, 12 years is a long time. It's a really long time. And there are a lot of women who are dealing with these things for many, many years.
Yeah,
So,
because
and some of the more embarrassing.
there is a majority or a general um, idea of when it starts, but you are the perfect example or counter example that it's sometimes it's not when you're 48 or 52 or sometimes it's either or older or so. The thing that you were saying about it being very individual is what it's
Yeah.
both very, very individual experience and a hugely collective experience, actually.
Yes, it is. It's both. There are so many things that we have in common that can happen, but the way and the timing that those things, those changes and challenges come up in our body, in our hearts, our minds, and our spirits is different and unique. And, most women are gonna, the average age for going into menopause, which, I'll define for our audience is 12 consecutive months without a period, is around age 50, 52. But I know women who've gone into menopause naturally at 44, 58, upwards of 60. And so when you think about, okay, here's this time frame from 45 to 60 years old, that's a 15-year time span.
Yeah.
And I think it causes a lot of women anxiety because they're like, well, where am I going to land in there? We just don't know. I mean, you might be able to get a little bit of an idea based on your family history, but not all women know their family history or have it available to them.
Yeah. Or yeah, for me, for instance, because we're going to be talking about ourselves here. My mom had a hysterectomy when she was 42, so she never went through menopause. So I had no history. Obviously, my granny was no way going to talk about anything remotely concerning menstrual cycle with me. So I have no history whatsoever. So I had to just wait and see, and it did not provoke anxiety, but I don't know. It's a mystery complete because also
Right.
that's things we don't talk about, right?
Yeah, it is. It's things that we don't talk about. Like you mentioned your grandmother, my own grandmother and her sisters, my aunties, they talked about it as the change of life. So,
Mm.
there was a time where women didn't even feel comfortable using the words. Like
Yeah.
they had a code for it,
Yeah.
like we'll talk in code about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
There was a time not so long ago, I'm old by now. I remember a time when we didn't say menstruation, all of them, let alone part of my lineage is Greek. So we're talking about a very conservative and patriarchal society. Remotely, we're not even discussing blood in any way, shape, or form. And I'm going to take you up on something that you said earlier. You said, I don't want to call them symptoms, but this is one big thing for me, is the amount of brainwashing that goes around a disease. And right, so they're not symptoms.
yeah, I find it so ironic that so they're called symptoms when, to me, that word has no place in the conversation because it's a natural process that we're going through. And what I find so ironic is practically zero of the medical community has any training in menopause, yet they're trying to medicalize it. So it's like, what's going on with that? Yeah. So I'm more comfortable saying challenges and changes, awakenings and openings in our body and our heart and our mind and our spirit, rather than symptoms. It's, for the vast majority of women, there doesn't need to be medical intervention. Sometimes there is, and even in those cases, like even when someone has a hysterectomy and they go into an immediate menopause, I feel sadness around that because they're robbed of the process. Like the whole process for me has not just been physical, but it's been this, emotional and spiritual awakening. And to have that happen so abruptly, and then you're robbed of all of that. You're robbed of the gift of this passage, of going through this process, of reflecting on your life and looking at your failures and your successes and your life lessons, and then being able to look ahead and choose and create what you want for yourself.
Agreed. On top of that, there is the if we, I'm trying to not spread too much over the episode, so I'll bring us back to the body. But there's this very confusing thing that there are so many changes. I was going to say available or possible, and then so many of us, we go through, is that menopause? Is that is that showing me that something's happening, or is it not? So there is you were mentioning that the medical profession is not trained, but neither are women. So we go in there almost, and except for the three main ones, which would be flashes, variation in the period, and vaginal dry sun.
Dryness in general, like your hair becomes dry, your skin, your vagina. It's like everything is dry. Like, and some things you might might not think of being related to hormonal changes in perimenopause. I would say if it's something you've never experienced before, it might be worth investigating to see if your hormone levels are changing. Like women who have burning mouth, like the top of their mouth starts burning. That can be
Wow.
My teacher said the other day that hormones are the most powerful drug. And it's so true. They are so powerful, and we have these receptors. They're like a lock and key system, right? The endocrine system. And so if just one little thing is off, the whole system's in upheaval.
Yeah. Of course, being overweight myself, I'm going to mention weight as well, because the process for me has included weird weight gain, and also not hungry, too much hunger, like a machine that is not functioning correctly. My body has felt like, what the hell is happening? You know.
Yeah, I would like to respond to that because I that is huge for women. I'm a small person to begin with, and I have also noted shifts in my weight and where I carry my weight and how much weight I have. I'm 10 pounds heavier than I was 10 years ago. And here's the thing that's happening. Your hormones are doing a dance as you go through perimenopause. So your ovaries, which have been in charge of producing estrogen, right? And those other hormones that are related to our cycle, they want to retire. And so your adrenals and your organs and your body fat stores take over the production of some of those hormones. And so what I like to say to women is, you know, it's probably normal. I want to normalize that we have a little extra, that there's a reason for it during
Yeah.
this phase of life, right? I mean, there is a certain place where it becomes an unhealthy weight, but we're so caught up in this perfect looking image that even women who are maybe 5 or 10 pounds more than they used to be, that causes them a lot of angst and anxiety. And I just want to normalize that a
But I
little
think
extra.
it starts with, for me, it starts with the reminder that I need to myself repeatedly that we're beings. So we're
Yeah.
not, there is no permanent situation with a woman's body, right?
Yes. I love
Depending
that.
happening, you are you having kids? Did you have them? Were you pregnant? Did you have labor or did you not? There is no permanence. So why should there be or a line that would be um, the same one through menopause, which is just change, like, um,
Right. And the changes we go through the process are even nuanced. And I'll take hot flashes for an example. You know, I I've had them for, like I said, 12 years now, and they've
wow.
gone through so many nuanced cycles. For example, I went through a period where my hot flashes started at my feet and went up to my head. I had a period where I would get beet red in the face every time I had one. I went through a time where they were very mild and I would have like they would be so sporadic, one here, then a few more days, and then I'd have one. And then I went through a whole period of time where I could count on having one in the morning, every time I ate, in the evening, just like clockwork, and some of them I would just be dripping in sweat, and it would like pool between my breasts.
Mm.
And at other times I'd feel it behind the backs of my knees. So I feel like I've had every iteration of the hot flash that's
You
possible,
seem to have had the whole menu, but
but I
not
like
all
what
at
you're
the same
saying.
time.
Yeah, not all at the same time. And so, when I like what you're saying about there's a season and a cycle to everything, and everything changes. And
Yeah.
even these individual things that we might experience as we go through perimenopause can be so nuanced.
Yeah. For instance, I'm not, please don't hate me, but I've never had hot flashes.
I, I
I've been in perimenopause for a good 6 years now, and I've never had hot flashes. I've had
yeah,
sweats. The thing that everybody describes as hot flashes, I've, I've had my
yeah,
own
yeah.
set of changes and weird things. But it's really um, to that with other women, because as you were saying, most of them are untrained, but our
Yeah.
sisters are not, because if we can discuss it with other women, it changes everything.
Yeah, it does. And I want to take this idea of a hot flash a little further and go a little
Okay.
woo here, which I know you'll love. So, the medical profession, they're going to be looking for a cause of that and a fix for that. And what I've learned through my yoga experience is to be accepting of the changes that are happening to my body. And so, what I mean by that is not acquiesce. That means give up. I don't mean giving up. The root meaning of acceptance is to receive. So, how do we receive these changes in our body with more grace, with more ease? And I like to take the hot flash as an example of this isn't just something physical happening to my body, but what if it's a reminder? What if it's a wake up call? What if it is the fire of change, of something that needs to change in my life rising up, right? Or just a reminder that I need to slow down more, to rest, right? So, yeah.
Yeah, no, that's really interesting because most, I'm guessing, if I take it from my own experience, that most of the time we go straightforward anxiety, ooh, what's happening? And then it creates fear and anxiety. And what you're asking us here to do is go the opposite way and say, it's telling me what is happening is telling me a story, and it's my story. How can I accept it and yet find a way to with that instead of through it?
Yes, to sit with your anxiety, to sit with your hot flashes, to sit and walk with. I love that. I love that imagery, to walk with what's happening in your body. And I call this the first key to an inspired menopause and your beautiful body is to accept the changes that are happening physically and to nourish your body. So, what are the things that you can do to rest more, to, you know, uh, to nourish and nurture your body?
Yeah, because maybe we should make a stop here and point that one of the major symptoms, and I'm using symptom this time correctly, because all of this is
Yeah.
exhausting.
Yeah.
And when you feel exhausted, this is a symptom of dealing with it in a healthy way. So this for the time, it's a consequence. It is a symptom of not the way that I try to deal with it. The things is I used to be the person who hated sleeping. I was, as a young woman, as a maiden, I considered sleeping was a waste of time. We'll sleep when we're dead. I have a life to live. I want to go and do things, run, enjoy my life, swim, whatever. I
Yep.
can't nowadays. But I have a choice of deciding that I will walk through it and exhaust myself, or that I will rest, do other
Right.
kind of find a new rhythm that
Yeah.
includes that, or or it becomes a symptom of then exhaustion.
Yeah, exactly. And I can so relate to what you're saying. Some of the things you just said, I heard those very same words coming out of my own mouth when I was a maiden, which, as you know, led to what I call my quarter life crisis when I passed out in a grocery store at the age of 28. And I really had to take a look at my health then and the habits that I had. So that I had a habit of pushing through all the time. I had a drive and I had to look at that and I had to make different choices and shift that. And that's what set me up for a more easeful perimenopause. Because believe me, everything that's on that list, I've gone through, I've had, but I never felt like I suffered during perimenopause. In fact, I felt like it was one of the best times of my life in some ways. So I survived it, but I also feel like I thrived through it. And so I think what's hard for women is if they're still in that habit of pushing and then they come into perimenopause and they just don't know what to do with that. And it's not their fault, right? it's what we've
Obviously,
been
society.
trained and taught. Exactly.
That's
Yeah.
they've been selling
We live
us,
in a
Go.
exactly. And rest has not been celebrated or elevated. And so, this time where we come into perimenopause and menopause when we need more rest, it's not supported.
No. I was thinking again about the cyclic nature of women and the monthly cycle that we go through before we enter perimenopause, which should, or because it's to end at least of rest. And already we don't do it. So imagine when comes in for rest, which is perimenopause and menopause. And I don't know if it's, rest is also the time where we dream.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's not, and I have to say that out loud, hear it myself, dying. Rest is not dying. It's not like go is the only way. And I think that, despite society's norms and normative systems, women need to is not giving up or dying or vulgar, you kind of rude. Oh my God, or weak. It's not even a weakness.
It's not a weakness. I'm reading a book right now called Rest is Resistance by Trisha Hershey or Hersey. I'm not quite sure how to pronounce her last name. It's spelled Hersey. And, you know, rest is a choice, rest is an action.
Mm-hmm.
It's very powerful.
Definitely an action.
And it is a form of resistance of everything we've been taught and trained.
Yeah.
And it's a time.
Sorry, go on.
Oh, I was just going to say, it's important for our bodies because it is a time where all of our body systems are resetting. We're receiving rejuvenation, we're refreshing. And, it seems counterintuitive to rest when you have more to do, but resting actually gives us more energy. It fills our well of being back up. And you can't get more out of an empty cup.
No.
You have to fill it back up.
But again, the norms or the way that society is selling us life means that when you rest, you become invisible because you kind of retreat into your own cave or bed or whatever. And invisibility means disappearance. If you're talking social media or business or, and so for so many women, they kind of fight the urge to rest because it means disappearing, not showing up for whatever their lives, their parents, their children, their business. And I believe that really we need to reinforce the message that you just said, because it's so. On top of that, the Hollywood system, for instance, shows us no menopause women. We have women, they become mothers, then after that they disappear and vanish into the grand nowhere, only to reappear as grandmothers when they're 65.
Yeah.
With Susan Sarandon, who made a conversation on some kind of award speech saying, I'm 48 years old, I had no proposals for years, nobody wants me, basically. I'm non-existent now. I was one of the top paid Hollywood actresses, and now I'm just no one. Do you think that's relevant? Do you think that is acceptable? That the industry literally vanishes or makes disappear a whole bunch, operation basically, of women at a time. And then the audience, us, the rest of the population, we have no role models.
Right. That's exactly what I
We
was
have,
just thinking. Breaking my heart, right? That these women disappear for 15 years. And, personally, I would be interested in seeing that portrayed. I would be interested in seeing that model.
of course. Well,
Yeah.
again, half of the population, do we hide this as, and then the thing is, we hide this, or when the whole society hides it, since there is no role model, it then becomes, the woman can feel guilty or even shameful of not feeling perky and go and all funny, or wanting to rest. I feel like, oh my God, there's something wrong with me. And again, there's nothing wrong with going through menopause, because you know what? Everybody does. Well, every woman does. But it sounds like, we're saying that, and I'm half laughing. It sounds so ridiculous. Even the attempt to pretend that it doesn't exist sounds ridiculous.
Yeah.
I mean, anyway, sorry, this is going to get me angry. So
Yeah, I'm feeling the weight of that moment. I mean, I'm feeling myself get quiet because I just want us all to feel like the gravity of that. It's huge. And this is exactly why I'm on a mission to bring menopause out of those shadows and into
yeah,
the light. And I know I'm not the only one. I'm so encouraged by all the work I see out there, the other women who are
yeah,
talking
no,
about this too. And
but
that's
we
what's
need we
gonna
need
shift
we
it.
need anyone who feels called to do that work, is welcome, because there is a lot to be done, a lot to
Yes.
be discussed. And one of the things that I love with your work, and I'm going to push you to kind of insist on that, is that what you do is not teaching. It's holding space for women to talk between themselves also, and
Yes.
creating this that is, for me, is also potent and powerful, because
Mm,
then we find sisterhood, and we find that we are not alone, that we are not isolated, that we rest, and we seem to disappear. There are times where we're not resting, when we're discussing with our sisters and seeing that our symptoms or our changes for individuals, uh, however individual they are, they find resonant other women. And I think that's very, very important.
yeah. Thank you for that. And I'm really glad you're acknowledging that because it is different. Teaching is such a small portion of what I do now. It's more, like you said, about facilitating. It's about bringing women together, and yes, I teach them
Of
different
course.
restorative practices and ways that they can rest, and then we rest together. And there's a power in that, and in sharing with one another. And I like to say that, in women's circles, you're going to the real experts about
Hmm.
menopause, the other women who are going through it right now
Yeah,
with you. This is how we learn, is from each
absolutely.
other.
Absolutely. I a few years back, I used to run red tents and women's circle. I'm kind of in a pause for that, in a menopause for that. Ha ha ha. But one of the things that I was really uh, very excited was having generations of together in the same room. So having maidens and mothers and wise women and enchantresses and the whole shebang. It's so powerful to see that, and so reassuring to see that we're kind of circling together in this weird cyclic existence that is a woman's life. In fact, we are not isolated, even though society tries to pretend that we don't exist. Guess what? We do.
Yeah, we do. We're not alone. We're not isolated. We can connect with each other, and we can
And we
share
can
our
learn so
voices
much.
and learn so much from
Yeah,
each
because
other.
basically, if we wait, if all of us, if we wait for society to educate us, this is a dead end. We need to grab the matters into our own hands and educate ourselves, whether it's about the cyclic nature of women when we have cycle, or whether it's about menopause, or whether it's about giving birth. I recently stumbled upon a statistic that said that the amount of C-sections is in Greece now. It's more than 50% of
Oh, wow.
of the labor of giving birth that is C-sections, and that's 100% of them, almost exaggerating, but a good 80% are elective, because
Yeah.
the OBGYN wants to go on weekend, and and it's like, fuck
Yeah.
no, a woman's body is
Mm.
in most cases very well to give birth. It's and it's not a medical
Yeah, very
condition
well.
again.
Yeah, and to go through menopause. Yeah, I know our rate here in the States is quite high as well, and it keeps going up, and you'd think it'd be going in the other direction.
And
Um,
sorry, before we I wanted to ask a question that is a body question, since we're supposed to be discussing body. I wanted to know what do you have a stand regarding hormones, so
oh,
synthetic hormones.
yes.
uh,
Oh, good. I'm so glad you brought that question up. I did want to bring that up because that's a question I get frequently is what is my take on hormone
yeah.
replacement therapy? Um, and that has changed over the years. So of course I have my own story around that. I watched my mom go through taking
Mm-hmm.
hormones when she was in perimenopause, and her very negative experience from that, which at the time, you know, some results around that were taken out of context that we're learning now. And it put the media into a whole frenzy around how hormone
Mm-hmm.
replacement is terrible for you. And I'm just going to take the stance that I do with everything. I really believe in a woman's sovereignty. And my take on hormone replacement therapy is if you feel drawn to it, if you've tried everything else and and you're curious about it, is to do the research about it. Find out
Yeah.
more. And
Mm-hmm.
I think every woman should be able to make that decision for herself.
Mm-hmm.
Some women will want nothing to do with it, and I think that should be acceptable. And other women, are going to find relief through that. And I think all the tools that we have to help us through this incredibly difficult phase of life available to us.
Yeah.
And women can decide for themselves. Um, I had somebody ask me recently, as a midlife midwife, what's the most interesting story I've ever heard, or impactful story? And I would say, I was reflecting on that this morning. And the stories I love the most are the women who trust themselves.
Mm-hmm.
They've been told you're too young or this is all in your head. And they've stood up against that because they know their own body. And we've been taught not to trust our own body. But
Mm-hmm.
some women have learned to trust their own body again. And they've trusted themselves. And they were right.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
that's my take.
Whatever
That's my take on hormone therapy
that's a
replacement
good
is,
one. That's a good one.
yeah.
Absolutely. I am in absolute accord that, since we are all going through this change individually, well, the answers, the solutions are also individual.
Yeah.
Um, we all, we
Yes.
cannot
Yeah.
anymore. We should not. I should, but I'm going to. We should not. This change be somebody else's choice. We need to do our research and to make our own choices. Whatever the choices, they will be right for us, for each of us. But I believe that, kind of giving up our power to somebody else to decide for us is the worst. Unless you have a medical condition, obviously,
Right.
this is different.
Yeah, that
Um,
is different. Yeah. So the women who come into my inspired menopause circle, I try to help them with that research. People who know my work are constantly sending me articles, and so one of the things that I've done is I've compiled a list. So there are books and articles and clips that when a woman is inside the program, she has access to.
Awesome. So we're going to have to talk about that because I realize we're almost done already. My gosh,
Yeah,
time flies. So
it does.
for the listening to us or listening to us before March 8th, 2024, there you can access Cindy's amazing sample circle, shall we call it like this, called Not Your Mother's
Yeah.
Menopause, which is happening on March
Yes.
the 8th for International Women's Day. And you will link above or below the video. It's kind of a sample of what if you join her big program called Inspire Menopause, which starts next week. Am I correct?
The Inspired Menopause starts at the end
Yeah,
of March. This
at the end of
Friday.
March. Sorry, my mistake.
Yeah, this Friday.
Have the Not Your Mother's
March.
sample circle.
Yes. Yeah. So that's
Um,
on International Women's Day on purpose. I hold it on that day every year. And yeah, so that circle is about breaking through that feeling of isolation, invisibility, the silence, and mystery around menopause, and reframing it as a celebration into wise womanhood. It's a chance to connect with other women and myself who are going through perimenopause and menopause. And it, like you said, it's a anyone who's interested in my 3-month program, this is the place to come and learn about it, is in Not Your Mother's Menopause. I'll be sharing the details. And it also will give women a taste of restorative yoga, just a little taste of what rest and release and relief feel like in your body. And you begin
awesome.
to nurture your body. And then I'll also go over the 4 keys to having an inspired menopause. And
Mm-hmm.
talk a little
Now
bit
you
about
got
one
me
of those
excited.
today.
As you know, I'll be coming. So,
Yeah.
you who are listening to this, if you are listening before March the 8th, 2024, you can find the link around the video or the audio. Now, if you're listening after that and you're still interested in finding Cindy, you will find other links below or above the video where you can reach Cindy when it's not March 8th. The rest of the year, she is still around and she has a few amazing programs that you can join, or you can work with her one-to-one as well. And I'm really excited that we get to talk about this topic a little more since we're doing another, as we were saying. So we're going to spread them over the course of 4 months or 3 months. So roughly once a month, we'll come together and discuss the various layers of menopause, shall we say. So today we've centered a lot around the body. We will go through the mental, the emotional, the spiritual aspects of menopause in the next 3 episodes. So if you're interested in this one, I'm really I'm really happy that we get to do these because again, it's a cyclic thing and it lasts a long time. So it's for many women, it's not like a one-off 5 minute and then take a pill and then we're done. It might be the longest experience of a change because we have pregnancy for any woman who has had children. It is a long thing, but it's 9 months, right? And then done. And then
Yeah.
done. Sometimes you repeat that crazy stuff, but for most, for the most part, it's 9 months. Whereas menopause, as we were saying, can be a very long experience. And I think that it's also you said that earlier on, and I would like to bring there. It's also an evolving thing.
Mhm.
It's not
Yeah.
like you're going to years of menopause and from day one to the end of it, it's going to be the exact same thing. It's going to change whether your hot flashes go from the feet and then from the head or whatever, whether you have hot flashes or not. Blood, no more blood, less blood. There's so much change in the change.
Yeah, there is, and that's why I'm excited to have a series to talk about all of these things that are just happening on a physical level, but also emotionally,
Yeah.
mentally, spiritually. And some of the women who come to Inspired Menopause, what you're talking about is exactly why they come back year after year, 4 or 5 years. I think this will be my 5th year, and I have women who've attended every year because
Hmm.
every year there's something different, there's something new for them, they've grown
Hmm.
into a new person, and so each year it's just as exciting as the last, and uh, just as filled with growth and potential and possibility as the last.
Awesome. Well, I couldn't be more excited. Thank you very much for this first episode.
Thank you.
So it will be on the podcast tonight, later tonight, or tomorrow morning. And yeah, hopefully it will inspire women who feel lost with menopause to come and join you at least during the Not Your Mother's Menopause Circle, and maybe for longer, and to listen to episodes 2, 3, and 4, the dates of which will be in the description of the podcast, but I don't remember them by heart right now. Thanks
Yes.
again, Cindi.
Oh, thank you. All
And I will talk to you very soon.
right.
Bye for now.